Coogs House. We've gotten really excited for good reason about the Houston Cougar football recruiting scene and building that program up. But what about Sampson's squad?
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, the daily podcast all about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. Appreciate you making us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Cougs. If you enjoying the conversation but don't know what to say, tell us in the comments down below which sock you put on first. Think about it before you answer, but you've got a routine. What sock do you put on first? Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. We got more on that in a moment, but I want to start looking at the Houston Cougar basketball recruiting scene because honestly, full disclosure here, we spent a lot of time excited for good reason about what the football program's been doing, but the program that's at that place where all the other places, all the programs are trying to build to is men's basketball, and they're not like slowing down by any stretch. I want to talk about some of my favorite guys from 2025 with Houston offers. I want to talk about Chase McCarty and the big time, both figuratively and literally, Houston commit and signee for 2024. But I got to talk about the more famous guy. You've probably heard of this guy, at least of his dad at this point, and that is Mercy Miller coming in first. Mercy is a 6'4", 180-pound combo guard out of Sherman Oaks, California, Notre Dame High School. Mercy has been committed to Houston since his sophomore year of high school. I think most people have gotten acquainted with the idea of Master P, Percy Miller, his son, Mercy Miller, has been committed here for a long time. Master P is originally from New Orleans, a Southern guy himself. Mercy's been around a little bit. He started off as a freshman at Minnehaha Academy, started on the team as a freshman there in Minnesota, played with a guy named Chet Holmgren, who's now in the NBA. Chet was a senior when Mercy was a freshman, right? They won the state championship that year. Mercy, for which came in and replaced Jalen Suggs, who was also in the NBA in that system. As a sophomore, Mercy went out to Oak Hill Academy, the legacy basketball academy in Virginia, but kind of wanted to be closer to family, that's a boarding atmosphere, etc. And honestly, it's log jammed with NBA type guys. I mean, that's what they are out there. And at Oak Hill, he ends up going back to Sherman Oaks in Southern California, where his family has a home, lives with his family, spends the last 2 years out there. Really doesn't get to be the lead dog on any teams, I'm getting to, until his senior season at Notre Dame, but got to play key roles in all these other very prestigious winning teams, right? In the summertime, if you're an AAU person, he spent some time with JL3 Elite in Houston, especially after the commitment. That was a big deal for him to kind of be acquainted with the city and be near where the staff could see him and the local gassos and stuff like that. He spent last summer before his senior year of high school, with the Oakland Soldiers. I mentioned his dad's Master P. I would point out that his oldest brother, Romeo Miller, played for USC, although some people think that was basically being lumped in with DeMar DeRozan because they were buddies back in the day. Also, for what it's worth, his other older brother, there are like 7 Miller kids. His other older brother, Hersey, is in the transfer portal presently, was a walk-on at Louisville and was actually at Tennessee before that. But Mercy, Houston Cougar, long-time committed as a sophomore before he could even take an official visit, committed all after an unofficial visit, is a true combo guard. And he has some incredible scoring outputs, ones that I think are sticking out as noteworthy if you want to go check his stuff out on YouTube, if you're that kind of a basketball fan. He had 29 in their game against Harvard Westlake, which at the time was the number one ranked team in America, number one ranked non-academy team in America, I should say, in Los Angeles. 29 in a big upset win over them. He had 35 in a matchup with Elijah Arenas, Gilbert Arenas' son, who's also a high-end ranked recruit, a little bit younger, but very much filled out, looks like the same age. They both had 35 covering each other in that one. For what it's worth, actually, Elijah was not Elijah was covering Mercy a lot more than Mercy was covering Elijah because of some other matchup deals, but neither here nor there. The big one for Mercy is 68-1 over Oakwood. Critics point out that they won 104-44. I would point out he went 28 of 38 shooting. It's not like he was like, 20 to 58. I mean, he was fairly efficient to get to 68, actually, in as much as you can be in that instance. In watching his film, what sticks out to me about Mercy Miller is he is an explosive athlete with a ton of creativity around the rim. He's getting to the point by his senior year games where you're watching him that he can also play above the rim some. A year with Coach Allen Bishop and the power cleans and the squats on the lunges and stuff they do, that kid's going to be above the rim in no time. Again, the frame, he's 6'4", 180. If he gets that up close to 6'4", 190, this guy's going to go scoring anyone in the Big 12. He's a bucket getter, crafty with both hands, attacks the rim with a great handle, and he's got the 6'4" frame, big shoulders, long arms. He uses all that really well to get through and around defenders at the rim. The jump shot doesn't look like aesthetically pleasing. It looks pretty compact if you're a shooting coach or someone that judges those kinds of things, but it doesn't seem to matter. He clearly shoots a lot. It's very rehearsed and practiced jump shot, but he shoots really high percentages from both mid-range and deep. Incredibly consistent release and lift. Again, if you're a shooting person, that all makes sense. If you're not, he clearly is in the gym a lot practicing it. And while it might not look like the prettiest thing in the world, it gets the job more than done. And it's not like some horrendous thing is holding him back in it at all. Defensively, and I think this is where he probably fits in with Houston the most and why he probably committed to Houston so long ago, he clearly enjoys playing defense. His instincts are all very visibly there. As far back as watching some Minnehaha stuff, which he's a freshman, he's a little bit out of size or whatever, but he's defensively, he follows the ball well, tracks the ball well, reads and anticipates passing lanes well, and he's just so competitive. He's just a hyper competitive kid. Good rebounder. I mean, 6'4" and long arms translates that in high school more often than not, but a good rebounder, again, competitive kid in that aspect as well. All of that is to say that he seems to already fit the Houston Cougar culture, and he's probably the most professional kid coming in Houston's ever had. He already has signed a $1.4 million NIL deal. He signed it in high school, actually, with a black-owned Greek yogurt company called Sweet Kiwi. Obviously some connection with his father across a bunch of businesses around the country, but the kid's got cash. That's why there has been some circulation. It's mostly it's rumors that have some traction, but he is taking up a scholarship spot, but there's, does he have to if he's got the $1.4 million NIL deal? Money aside, parent legacy aside, I would point out his dad did have 2 stints in training camps in the NBA. I mean, his dad's not a slouch of a basketball player. He just was a rapper. He carries a big chip on his shoulder. I think that's where the competitive drive comes from. There are quotes of him talking about being upset that he was left out of the top 100 in his class for a long time. Eventually moved up to ESPN, had him at 68th. On 3 has been higher on him than most. They have him as high as 31 this season. But Mercy felt like he should have been a McDonald's All-American or a Jordan Brand All-American. Didn't get invited to those, but did get to go play in the Reebok Iverson game and played very well in that, right? And so I think that that's the chip he's looking for. Obviously, it's not like his background or he had some crazy, challenging or whatever thing like his father would have gone through. Instead, his challenges are people aren't seeing him for the basketball player he is. They're seeing it more like he's the name, he's masterpiece. And he's no, I'm here to hoop. And I'm telling you right now, Kelvin Sampson wouldn't be taking this kid in for the name. The kid can hoop, right? And Kelvin Sampson quotes after the commitment and signing, after the signing, I should say, not the commitment, after the signing, said, I saw Mercy after his 10th grade season at a tournament in Houston with JL3. And I was impressed with the way he made shots, but also his unselfishness. Mercy is serious about his game. He wants to be the best player he can be. He comes from a family of high achievers. Mercy understands what our culture is, and he wants to be a part of it. Those kids usually succeed here. We're really excited about bringing Mercy here. Again, none of that reads like it's some celebrity kid. It all reads like a Houston Cougar kid. And while there will be sideshows to him, I'm sure, being here just because of the nature of the beast, I'd point out that Mercy's gonna hoop and gonna be good at it. Mercy's really good at basketball, and I think that he'll make a big impact in his time at Houston. The guard room has a lot of guys in it, but I think he's going to find his way because he's just that good a scorer, right? The other signee from the 2024 class might actually see the floor first or just at least play a more unique role. I want to talk about him in a second, but first, we're talking about all kinds of things to go watch and see. And if you want to go watch and see someone besides the Cougs in town, or I guess if you want to go ahead and start getting basketball tickets right now, you go to Game Time as well, because Game Time is the best place to get tickets to anything: concerts, comedy shows, theater, games, Astros, your baseball team, wherever you are, anything is on Game Time. They got all these cool deals like last minute deals, flash deals, zone deals to save you money as the event gets closer. So if you're like thinking and sitting around waiting on it, check Game Time. You're still thinking about an hour later, check Game Time again. Trust me, download the app today and do it. They got all kinds of all-in pricing so you don't get fooled by anything. If you pick a row and section, they'll show you what it looks like at that venue for that event, that type of event from that row and section. If you find cheaper tickets in the same section and row somewhere else, they'll give you credit up to 110% of the difference. So make sure you go to Game Time, take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets or whatever you're trying to watch now. With downloading the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, now Chase McCarty, 6'6", 200 pounds, IMG Academy. Sounds familiar, right? Jarace Walker's a little heavier. I think he's a little over 6'6", but Houston's done well with this in the past, at least, right? Chase comes in from IMG. I should point out he spent 3 years at Westminster Christian High School in Alabama, where they won a state title, and he was their division's high school player of the year, his junior year, and et cetera. Wanted an increase in competition level to continue to further his game, very serious about his game. That led him to IMG. At IMG, he did a number of different things I'll talk about in a second. But I have to say that while we're talking about Chase second here, and I'm not helping the situation at all by talking about him second here, if Mercy Miller's family were not as well known a celebrity kind of family like you would hear about, Chase and Mercy would probably be talked about a lot more equal in terms of time and airtime across the country. Chase is a really, really good basketball player. He's a 4-star recruit. He got up as high as 73 on the 24/7 rankings. ESPN at 94. He's a 2-guard / wing, and I hesitate, and I'm stumbling over how to describe it because he also plays some power forward at IMG. But for Atlantic Express, he did a little bit more of the perimeter stuff. Whatever position you want to put him at, the kid can flat shoot. He shoots off movement. He shoots off catch. He shoots off dribble. He shoots off inbounds passes. He shoots on the fast break. The kid can flat shoot. And at 6'6", 200 pounds, he gets his shot off very well. He sees over the top of a lot of things, sees over the top of a lot of different defenders. Kind of an awkward matchup because if you put a guy that's bigger than him out there, he's going to go by them. He's going to, fly around the perimeter. He's in great shape, big, strong kid, but great shape to do all that kind of like, think about like Reggie Miller, Rip Hamilton, like that kind of movement guy down the line for this kid. Obviously, he's in high school right now, but like that's the kind of projection you're seeing on the movement. But also, if you put a little quick guy, again, he's 6'6", he can shoot over the top of it, so it doesn't matter if they're keeping up with him. I think in diagnosing this more this week and getting ready for this show, because I love talking about basketball, longtime listeners know, but I'm an assistant coach on a high school basketball staff. Like when I say teacher and coach, that's what I do. I love watching high school basketball. Um, I wonder if Chase actually sees more minutes early, right? The same way in the 2022 class, we talked about and comparing like Terrence Arsenault and Emmanuel Sharp, that Terrence might project more to the pros, and pro scouts were salivating over him out of high school and still project him if he bounces back from this Achilles thing to be an NBA guy. But Emmanuel's game matched up more with what Houston needed, right? So that's the kind of thing we're seeing here, where people are salivating over what Mercy Miller can do scoring the basketball, but Houston's got the guards. They got scoring out of the guards. Chase McCarty has a 6'6" wing that's played some power forward, played some two guard, played everything in between, offers a different kind of animal, and frankly, will probably see the floor earlier and more often because of that. If you're into the AAU circuit scene, he played for Atlanta Express, which is like the Georgia and definitely Atlanta's top Under Armour team. And with them, they had him play a small ball four. And then his senior year at IMG, they had him play a small ball four as well. In both instances, though, that's because he had a true 7-foot shot blocker behind him, and a lot of their defense was funneling to the 7-footer. I don't know if he'd be a long-term four as much as a spurt small ball four, but I've been proven wrong on that kind of stuff before. I know that he's gained a lot of visible good weight in his 1 year at IMG in a more college-like setting in terms of the weight room. And so I think you could see more development with the more time under Coach Alan Bishop in that instance. He's just strengthened really, really well on defense. He rebounds through tough traffic kind of situations. Bluntly, in watching the Atlanta Express, I watched a game of theirs. Like I said, and watched like their whole AAU season from last summer, but I thought he was their best defender. I felt fairly confident in watching him that he was their best defender. At IMG, they had a big 7-footer going to Syracuse behind like 7-1 or something like that. So I don't know if I'd call him their best defender at IMG, but he was certainly, as a starter, he was a fairly impactful defender, to say the least. I thought it was interesting that at IMG, you saw a lot of that circuit kind of stuff that they were playing in across the country, playing other academies. He typically drew smaller matches because his shot chart would show like he's a guard out there, right? So he took them down in the block and hit some great turnarounds, used his weight well. A kid that athletically, I think, is ready to come play. And again, shooting is something you can never have enough of. I wonder if being able to play that small ball four and shoot the ball means you're going to see him in a lineup with like LJ, Emmanuel, and Milos Uzan, the new point guard, because we know Milos loves to dish it. And if you have that many shooters in LJ, Emmanuel, and Chase, he could just spray it out there, right? And just find a bunch of different guys who can shoot the ball from deep. Opens up wide, like driving lanes too, because of how many different shooters are out there. And then if the centers, Tugler or Francis or Jaywan as a small ball five, they each have different talents, right? Tugler and Francis finish above the rim. Tugler on the putbacks. You got Roberts as a passer, like whatever the case may be. But McCarty's pulling the defense out might open up some more Roberts isolation kind of stuff at the small ball five too, right? So like I think that he has so many ways that he can help this team out right away. I think Mercy Miller is a long-term, like, going to have a lot of points in Houston Cougar uniform, the kind of guy you might see like in some books with that, right? I wonder if the more immediate impact, that right now present day impact, is going to be Chase. I like that they're both Houston Cougars. Kelvin Sampson did a great job with this class, especially considering how many guys he has coming back, and they're in a whole lot of room for much more. But on Chase McCarty, Sampson said that Chase is an outstanding young man. He'll bring positive energy to your program. Is very competitive. I've been doing this 26 years. And he's one of the best shooters I've seen at his size. He will do positive things for you. Chase has great character. He may be quiet, but he's passionate about basketball and other people. He's a good kid. And I thought that last part about how focused that was on him being a good kid. If you watch his commitment video, 24/7 did it. His family appears very well, like very tight knit, right? Mom and dad, all laughing, having a good time whenever you see him on any clips, honestly. I think that matters here too. We know Sampson didn't just go out and get anybody. Not every 4-star can play at Houston, right? Not every 5-star can play at Houston. It's more about the quality of character and finding guys that fit the kind of culture we built here and finding all that together, right? That toughness plus that background plus that skill set's kind of the triumvirate here. Chase checks all the boxes. I'm really excited to watch this kid play, and frankly, it might not be that long to wait and watch him play. Now, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to watch these other kids, but I want to look at who could be joining in 2025, right? Because the 2024 class is, I mean, at this point, legitimately like on-campus practice, right? Or working out, I should say. No formal practice, but on-campus working out. And 2025 is around the corner. And those kids, bluntly, Houston's got a lot of offers out there. And so I want to talk about them in a second. So 2025 high school class has a lot of really talented kids at a couple positions Houston's going to need to fill, right? Point guard's up in the air, right? Because Milos has 2 years left. Carr's only got the 1 year left. I could see Sharp or Terrence going pro after next year. We'll see if either or both stay. J1's got the 1 year left. You're running into guys on the Malik Wilson's got 1 year left. You got a lot of spots here, right? You got a lot of spots here. And so I started off by looking at some guards in 2025 class. One that stuck out because I was watching McCarty's film is Jarace Walker, right? He's a point guard on the same IMG team. He's from Michigan. He's a 6'1" scorer. He scores a lot. I wouldn't say like shoots like Russell Westbrook in efficient numbers as far as like late career Russell Westbrook, but definitely shoots like same kind of volume. Like he attacks the rim, and if y'all collapse on him, that's when the point guard dishing ability starts. But all starts with him attacking first, and then the next thing is the dishing. Kingston Flemings, if we're talking about Russell Westbrook comparisons, though, kid out of San Antonio, he's the 6'3" explosive athlete that makes you might think of like younger Russell Westbrook, right? Gets way above the rim, crazy competitive, athleticism on athleticism kind of kid. And the other point guard that stuck out to me in looking was King Grace. King Grace is from Waxahachie, Texas, just south of DFW. Just an efficient scorer. Plays in the Under Armour circuit, and got like a 50-point game the other day. The clips are on YouTube to go watch. I mean, just efficient, and all his movements and his actions, like no wasted anything. That's in looking at guards you may have to fill if you're losing an LJ or whatever, right? Or if Milos goes pro, right? I mean, you don't know what's going to happen down the line there. The wing type spots, again, if like Wilson's got a year left, if you got to replace Roberts, these different spots in the class 2025. The top rated kid is a kid named Cole Pete. 6'8", 220. He looks bigger than that to me, but that's his listing. He's from Arizona. He plays with Compton Magic, which is a high-end Adidas club, and was one of the highest like performers in the Adidas circuit last summer. Is off to a great start on this summer as well. Listed at, again, 6'8", 220. Looks bigger than that, but also incredibly good with the ball in his hands, attacking from the perimeter, uses his size well. Think about like just how big and broad. Like if you're covering him and he puts his body between you and the ball, you've got that wingspan and those broad shoulders keeping. I mean, that's a long way away for the defender to be from the basketball. Uses all that size to his advantage. His hand, for reference on how big this kid is, when he shoots the ball, his hands make the ball look small, right? Like we're talking about that big a kid, but shoots it pretty well, I would say. And definitely has a lot of upside because he uses his body so well to score, that the next step will obviously be to be more of a shooter. More traditional forward is Chris Sinak, 6'10", Isidore Newman High School in New Orleans. Great athletes. I mean, like great explosion, great length, long strides, 6'10", like you said, right? Not the same kind of athlete as Koa with the ball in his hand, so it kind of depends on what kind of forward you're looking for there. I like that Kristanak was super decisive. You get the ball about the 8-9 foot dunker spot. He's facing up. He makes like 2 dribbles, scores, 2 dribbles, dishes. Right. He doesn't waste any movement like we talked about earlier with King Grace. He's very efficient in his movements. I like that he's willing to face up. You think about a big guy that put the ball on the ground as well. That's typically more of a back to the basket guy, and like he understands that athleticism is his calling card. He's going to face up and go by guys. The wing or forward that probably does that the best in this group, as far as like having the ball in his hands and working it around a lot. To me, it's a kid out of Houston St. John's High School, Sebastian Williams Adams. St. John's is also where Justice Winslow went to high school, and frankly, this kid kind of looks like a little bit bigger version of the same kind of thing as far as the way he's dominating the same high school, private school league, right? 6'8", 225, ball in his hands all the time. You could even argue at times on his high school team looks more like a point guard. He plays for JL3 Elite in the summertime. JL3 Elite, if you're watching that 17U team, they have another guy on this list we're about to mention in a second. They're having an incredible AAU season. The 17U team is. I will say that Sebastian feels more like a perimeter guy at 6'8". I don't think he's anti going down low, but certainly not what he's going to think is his strength. I hesitate to say favorite because I'm still looking at all these guys that Houston's offer in the 2025 class, and I guess it's subject to change. My present tense favorite, any position, anything, any of the 2025 potential class is Shelton Henderson, Bel Air High School in Houston. So I love having a Houston kid stay home. 6'6", 210 listed. He might be 6'7". He's definitely strong. And when he's 210, there's not an ounce of extra on that 210. He's chiseled out, looks like a pro in his shoulders and jawline. Like, I mean, he's very mature, physical, like strong kid. And I would say he plays a lot bigger than 6'6", 210. Frankly, if you saw his like rebounding stats and his block shots and like his shot chart, you'd probably assume he was like a center or power forward. He blocks a lot of shots, rebounds the ball a lot, and scores around the rim a lot. But he's really pretty fluid with the ball for a kid, frankly, as yacked as he is. I mean, it's hard to imagine a guy that strong with the ball on the perimeter that well, but it's so strong and so explosive that he can make a couple moves and attack, couple moves and attack, couple moves and attack, right? Shelton Henderson's incredibly competitive, and I think that, much like Chase, much like Mercy, much like every Houston Cougar, it sticks out to me in watching him play, and why, again, subject to change. Things can always change. I have not watched every single game every single one of these kids has played. I haven't even necessarily watched, not quite yet anyway, every single kid that Houston has offered in the 2025 basketball class. But he's my favorite by far. Just so competitive. Plays in the same JL3 Elite team I mentioned that Sebastian Williams Adams plays on. JL3 Elite is based in Houston, though I guess they had kids from all over Texas. And like we mentioned, Mercy Miller played for them while living nowhere near us, right? But that team, if you want to go watch some high school basketball at Peach Jam or whatever, that team's really good. Really, really good. And you might begin to watch a future Houston Cougar while you are doing it. And I'll work on some fun stuff for June as we wrap up May here. June is kind of the doldrums of summer, right? So we're cooking up some fun stuff for sure as we look at summertime for Locked On Cougs. Locked On Cougs proud to bring the latest on the Houston Cougars each and every. Locked On Cougs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Go Cougs.